Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Talk Show. This podcast is dedicated to a growth mindset. You see, I believe that you know something that I don't know, and I also believe that I know something that you don't know. And the only way for each of us to both rise in our knowings is to sit in a room and share all the things. For those of you that are new to this show and love inspirational content like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button, follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in.
We come to you every day with the best speakers, relationship coaches, spiritual mentors, trailblazers, business owners, authors, young hustlers, podcasters, entrepreneurs, fitness trainers, therapists, financial advisors, and more. We ask our guests one question. What do you know that I don't know? Get ready, because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Sabrina Victoria.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today for this episode of Her Talk Show. We have had over 500 women grace this stage, and we are adding another one to the list today. If you're watching us live, welcome. If you're watching us on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay wherever you're at so we can show you some love. Either way, if you are watching this video, we would so appreciate it if you could share it so we can get more eyes and more ears on the awesome content that we are about to share today. Her Talk Show is here to inspire and have you thinking outside the box in no time. Today, I am speaking with an amazing woman named Colleen Biggs. Colleen is an award-winning peak performance business coach, elite podcast host, author, and keynote speaker. Colleen empowers female business owners to take action so they can expand their influence, generate more money, and attract the right clients. Welcome, Colleen.
Hello, and thank you. I even brought my money with me today. I always have a stack of bills sitting next to my desk. So that's tip number one.
Bro, we got props today. I love that. Well, I'm super excited to jump into this. And as you know, you're in the industry. I've seen it all over the place in coaching. You know, females, I think in particular, have a really, really interesting time when it comes to the conversation around money, asking for money, looking for pointers on money, not really knowing how to navigate it. So I love it when I meet females like yourself who are ready and willing to dive into the subject of that to give us some insight on the mindset, the thoughts, the vocabulary that kind of goes around this subject.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When did you decide this? When did you decide, hey, let's talk about money?
Well, I think I decided let's talk about money, and money is something that I need to pursue when I left my corporate job and retired, 5 years ago. And it was like, you got to go from a W-2 to a W-9. When you're going from a W-2 to a W-9, every single entrepreneur just said, yes, I would like a job that is 100% commission. Go. And most women are like, that's not what I did. And I said, how do you generate money? If you're not generating money, you've got to create processes or memberships or, programs or lead generation. You have to organize and create all of this because it doesn't exist. So when I tell people you can create money out of thin air, they kind of laugh at me like, how am I supposed to do that? And it's like, well, that's what creating a business is. None of this existed before you left your job or came up with the idea. Like the Her Talk Show didn't exist. And then now, boom, here it is, right? And it's been going for years. And it's been a portal and a platform to get knowledge out to other individuals. So how do you monetize that? And I look at everything like, how do you monetize that? I was just talking to a client about that, Sabrina. There are things that we do that everything we do gives us a return. We just have to decide what that return looks like. And sometimes that return is feel good because you're volunteering for a nonprofit. I volunteer in my community. And when I do that, I don't expect when I volunteer in my community to get clients out of that or people joining my community or coming onto my podcast. I do it because it's a feel good. It's a give back to the community because I want to donate my time back to so many individuals that help me.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Definitely 100%. And I really like this analogy that you gave as far as straight commission. Because if you think about it, if we were going in for a job and we sat down with somebody and they said straight commission, we'd be like, how dare you? And yeah, it wouldn't even be a thing. You know, I actually recruited for straight commission for 15 years. Part of my job was to recruit sales reps on straight commission to go door to door. And it's I always say I was in sales as a recruiter. I'm in sales, trying to sell people on the goodness of straight commission. But that is so true. When you go into entrepreneurship, you actually are signing in to straight commission sales.
I like to use the term enroller. So if we, a lot of women, and I will tell you, probably 89% of all the women that I've met that are entrepreneurs, the number one thing they hate, and they'll tell me they don't like to do, is sales, which their whole entire business is sales. So I love to tell them, hey, try and look at it from the perspective of you being an enroller, right? If we have a new puppy, we have to enroll that puppy into going to the bathroom outside, right? We have to enroll our children into picking up after themselves, into doing their chores, into doing their home. You enroll them by enticing them, into XYZ. When we are enrolling people into a program of ours, we need to make it all about them. When you enroll a child into picking out what they're wearing in the morning, maybe when they're younger, you give them 2 options and you say, here you go, you get to choose what you get to wear today. And they're super excited, right? Because they have choices. So when you're presenting an opportunity like that to someone that have a potential as a client, or someone that can potentially join a membership of yours or buy some product, maybe a course or something that you have available, if you turn the spotlight on them and let them tell you everything about them first, then you're able to respond and not word vomit everything that you do. You get to be very specialized now in enrolling them in how what you offer matches what they need, because you've become a good listener now and you know exactly where they're struggling or where they're falling short or what their goals are for the year. And then there's times where I don't have something that will line up with this individual. And then at that point, I connect them with someone that I think would be a good connection. So not only am I valuable with the tools or knowledge or experience I have and programs I have, but I'm also, I become valuable to them for someone I can connect them to that might not be me. In the end, I connect them to someone else. And then that person is like, wow, thank you so much for sending that person to me. And then they'll return the favor in the future. So we need to really focus more on what value do we bring? And that automatically rains down the money. It does in the end, instead of just solely, selling for going after that dollar, like see every potential client in front of you as a dollar sign.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I absolutely loved everything you just said. One of the, I don't want to say biggest because it's not the biggest, but one of the challenges in networking that I have seen is sometimes they come and they say, yeah, I'm getting connections, but they don't turn into clients. So like, it's a total waste of time. Yeah. I don't do networking calls because when I start to do this referral thing, I sit down with these people, I don't sell them, we get off the phone, it was a total waste of time. And I view it very much the way you view it. Is if they're not your client, the idea is to problem solve. So you have to solve whatever you saw pop up in that call that could potentially be an issue with them and connect them to another person, which would then get returned to you with another call of some sort, maybe not immediately, but then you're at the top of the mind of both of those people that will turn into a referral basis later.
Yeah, I've even seen it with the person that I met first time around. I referred them. They said, I'm brand new into doing what I'm doing in social media, and I'm really looking to connect with publishers. And I was like, well, oh my gosh, you should connect with these publishers that I know. So I sent 3 emails that day connecting them to her to publishers. And my hope is in the future she will see my value of what I add, and then will join my community to realize, like, wow, these are all the women that are in her community that she connected me to. Maybe I need to be connected in this community, join as a member to be able to get connected to more of these women, right? We don't make those decisions for other people. And I think that's where desperation comes in. You feel like I'm losing clients, or I have to get more clients, or I have to make more money, or I have my bills I got to pay this month. And then everything is driven off of that desperation to make another dollar. And then that causes discounts because you're like, oh, you can't afford that. Well, what if I gave it to you at this amount? Now, that's a whole nother conversation we need to get into, because women will say, well, I'm priced at what I'm valued at, or what I'm worth. And I'll say, could we look at that from a different perspective? Is it based on the value of what the customer is getting? Because that value includes your experience, your knowledge, your credibility, your everything that you bring to the table. It includes all of that, but it's not really based on your value. It's based on the value of what you're delivering to them and what they're receiving. Again, focusing on the client, focusing on the other person. Yeah, for sure. Focus on them first. And it's not like you're not saying I'm not valuable or worthy. That's not what I'm saying. But you won't discount your prices when you know the value of what you offer. Yeah. But if you're having a really crappy month or two, you might discount your programs if the worthiness is all about what you're worthy of. Because that's where that mindset comes in, and you could get derailed because several things could happen. All of a sudden you feel on top of the world. And then for a couple of weeks, you're feeling kind of down in the dumps because your mindset's off. Right. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I don't have any clients, or I need to discount it. And then, no, it's not about the worthiness of you. It's about the worth of the value of the program that they're getting.
Yes.
Difference.
Yes. I think a lot of what you're talking about as far as what's good for them is the difference between long-term and short-term thinking when it comes to in the world of entrepreneurship. And are you in it for the short term, or are you in it for the long run? Which I know that you are, and I am too, as far as like, we're going for the long haul. So the connections that we're making now, although they might not be generating tens of thousands of dollars in this exact moment, we know that the snowball effect will eventually turn into long-term growth for our business, for our vision, for our community that we're growing. Desperation. I want to talk about this.
Okay.
Because, this is a big issue that I even have. I've been on podcasts with women where I've gotten triggered because, as the host, because of this mindset of letting things come to you. And I'd like your take on this, as far as what is the line between letting things flow to you versus you have to do work.
No.
Because there's a difference. And I have found myself frustrated with individuals, that the money that I make for my business is my money. I am not leaning on anybody. I do not have a wealthy husband. I do not have a trust fund. The money that I am making in my business is from my blood, sweat, and tears. And sometimes I think that there is a very strategic line that is being crossed over on one side or the other, with women who don't have the financial burden because they're being taken care of in some way or another. So it's easier for them to say, let money flow to you, versus the woman who is like a true entrepreneur and truly sometimes in the state of desperation.
Yeah.
So how do you view that? Where is your mindset as far as the difference between, yes,
There
let's
is a
but you
huge,
have to work.
yeah, there's a huge difference between someone that is running a business, but that money isn't needed to buy you food. That money isn't needed to pay for the roof over your home. When I left corporate America, I was not quiet or trying to keep it a secret that I was giving up a W-2 for a W-9. And I needed to do whatever it took to make money. My husband wasn't able to cover all of the bills because I had been the breadwinner forever, like most of my marriages. And, so when I look at the financial independence I created for myself, that's why I think the important piece is here that we're talking about. Financial independence means you can stand on your own if you needed to at any time, which opens up a whole array of choices for us as women, which that could be a whole nother discussion. But looking at that, in my situation, I needed to earn X amount of dollars every single month to pay for the nut, I call it, the nut of living. So we stripped out, housekeepers and people that we had that were extra things at that time. And I knew exactly how much money I had to make every month. And I guarantee you, several people listening to this today, they don't even know, because I'll ask them, how much are your monthly bills? And they say, what do you mean? How much are your monthly bills? What do you have to live on?
Yep.
They don't even know what that number looks like.
Yep.
Now, as you add more luxuries to that for your standard living of what it looks like, that might be increased. It might be decreased depending upon what your mortgage is or where you live, if you rent, how much you have in debt. I guess we could go on and on and on, and this could be a financial show. But if you want to have a good relationship with money, number one, you need to understand how much money do I pay out to live every single month. Everybody should know that number in their household and have the empowerment tools to be able to move that number around, meaning maybe that number goes up sometimes or it goes down, and you know how to decrease that number by taking out some expenses. And the other piece of that I think is very strong is by knowing that number, we're empowering ourselves to say, I need to do what it takes because my back's up against the wall to be able to make this money every single month. Now, Sabrina, when I came out as an entrepreneur, I was a contractor for some companies. I did some coaching. I also was teaching fitness classes because I was a personal trainer. So I got some clients, because the best way would be to get some private clients, because teaching a fitness class that's paying you $40 per class is not going to make a dent. But I'll tell you what, if I knew that I taught, so many classes in a month, it paid for my water bill or it paid for my electric bill. These are the kind of thoughts that you have when you first start being an entrepreneur, which is, how much money do I have to make that covers my bills? One of the biggest traps I see women get into that don't have to cover their monthly nut or bills, is it doesn't matter how much money they make, because that money is not going to pay for anything specific. So what happens is they don't draw anything out of the business. Biggest first mistake. I believe in profit first. You take profit first out of the business. My husband and I just started another business with our kids. It started in January. We take profit out of every single sale first and pay out the partners. That is an important piece, because you will not be able to sustain, like you and I talked about, Sabrina, long term, if you're growing a business and building it and never taking anything out of it. You feel like you're working for zero. I've made these mistakes in the past where you build a business, you never take a paycheck out, and you never take a draw. It's exhausting. You're literally working for free. Putting money in a business, spending all those hours, and working for free. Another thing that you would never do if someone offered to give you a job and not pay you for anything. So why do entrepreneurs start businesses and not pay themselves first out of that business? So both my husband and our business and our third business was built based on, this is what we pay first. And then we can add more expenses into our business as we go along, more marketing, more, all of these other expenses that we need, hiring additional talent, whatever that looks like as the business grows. The biggest mistakes I see is that they just start doing all these things and the money they're generating is just going right back out. But it's like throwing spaghetti at the wall. It's not returning anything. It just really isn't. It just kind of is this horrible business model on how you run a business. So just wanted to step back off that soapbox for 1 second. I'm like, shit, are you kidding me? You can't run a business like that.
Yes, definitely. Profit first. How long have you been doing that?
Woo! Profit first. I've been doing that in my business now 3 years. My husband's been doing it in his business 4 years. And that's because it's when we read the book. We didn't know anything about profit first. So my first business I ran, I didn't do it profit first. I made the mistake, although I was taking money out to pay my bills because it's how I had to live. Because again, we didn't have any other money coming from anywhere. It was both of our businesses combined, to pay for our personal. But that's when my husband and I found the book. We started reading it on a trip. I got in contact with the author. My clients sent in letters to the author to tell him that I was teaching them how to do it. He sent me this big package for Christmas one year of gifts. And then I interviewed him and his partner on the podcast. Like, I think the profit first is one of the best things that anyone can apply into their business, because now you never feel like I'm running a business for pennies or for no money, right? I'm always paying myself out first. And it also disciplines you to exactly what you just said, Sabrina. Take action. You can't just sit in your office and say, I want to run this amazing business, visualize it, put it all over your vision board and meditate. I'm sorry, but the nice new car that you want's not going to show up in your driveway, right? Yeah. You have to take action to what that looks like. I'll give you an example. I have on my vision board a new car. I knew why I wanted the new car. I knew how many seats it had to have. I needed a bigger car to carry women around for retreats, for when they come into Arizona. And I needed 7 seats, and I wanted it to be this white leather. I knew what brand I wanted, what color I wanted. So I didn't just slap it on my vision board and say, one day this car is going to fall into my lap, right? Mm-hmm. And so then in my email, I get something from my credit union that says, hey, Colleen, you're approved for a $50,000 loan for a car. And I thought, oh, I don't think I've ever noticed this before. So this is what happens. We have this RAS and it protects us because there's so much bits of information that come into us. Well, I was focused on this vehicle. Because I was focused on this vehicle, I noticed this email that came into my email box that I probably would have deleted or ignored in the past. But now I'm focused on a car. So I noticed that. And now I was like, oh, maybe I should move forward on this. Then I had to take action on that. And then I started taking action on looking for my exact vehicle, where it could be in the state of Arizona. Then when I found one, I reached out to them. Here's where the law of the universe comes into play, which we all talk about. I became focused on it. So I took action on it, right? I said I want it. I started preparing for it. I wanted to make sure it would fit in my vehicle. My husband and I talked about the exact type of vehicle, would it fit in the car, in the driveway, all this stuff. And then when I actually got the email, I applied and said, this is what I want to do. And then I went looking to see if there was a vehicle in the area. And when I found the vehicle, the law of the universe really helped in this. If this was the right vehicle I was supposed to get, then no one would have bought this vehicle. And by the time I found it and couldn't get there till Friday, I told the guy, my husband will come by, he'll look at it. He can start the paperwork. I can give you a down payment. The guy said to me, I don't know how you're getting this car. It's one of the best deals we've got. I've had 4 people tell me they want to buy it. They keep standing me up. They don't come by to look at the vehicle. This vehicle should have been gone 2 weeks ago. I don't know how you got it. And I said, I know exactly how I got it. Because it was on my vision board, because this was the exact vehicle that was for me. And I did all the work I needed to get here. That wasn't a lot of hard work, Sabrina. It really wasn't. I mean, I didn't go out looking and searching and doing all this stuff. It was a very simple, I knew I needed it. I knew when I needed it by. I knew the exact car it was going to be. And then the law of the universe decided to start lining things up for me to help me in the process to get what I need. Without action, There's no reaction is what happens on the back end. So we always have to remember there's a heads, there's a tails, there's a cold, there's a hot, there's a on, there's a off, right? There's always the opposite side of the coin. If we don't take any action toward those goals, the universe isn't just going to drop it in your driveway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I totally agree. How does somebody get out of the mind state of desperation? Because sometimes you're just in it. Sometimes you really are having to pay rent. So how do you do that?
And you are really having to pay rent. I mean, I have to pay my mortgage every single month. I've, keep my lights on, pay for my new vehicle now that I have, right? We all have to pay for those things. And I believe it's a difference of where your focus is. So if your focus is solely on, oh my gosh, here's the deficit, here's how much money I need to make, and you're constantly feeling desperate about that deficit of what you have to make, and you're not calming your mind, surrounding yourself with the people that can help keep you in a positive mode, right? We need a tribe, we need a community, listening to the right podcasts, listening to the right audiobooks, listening to things that are going to continue to increase your confidence, increase your knowledge, increase connections for you. If we're not lining ourselves up in these areas, that's when we start to feel the desperation, because we don't feel supported. We don't know, like there's no clarity in that path on what we're doing. But I tell you what, if you were to say, this is my rent every month, like I'll go back to the nut. I call it the nut. This is my nut every month. If your nut is $4,000 a month for your vehicle, for your expenses, for your apartment, for your house, whatever it is, and you have 2 clients that are on retainer paying you $1,000 a month, let's say, you need $2 more thousand a month to be able to comfortably pay your bills every month. All you do is go after that plan. Is that 2 clients on retention? Is that a side project? What does that look like? Write it down, and that's what you're going for that month. Those are your intentions that you're putting out there. That is what your plan is when you walk into a networking room, when you're connecting with someone. How many people have you talked to in the last year that you could go back and let them know you have a project availability for them that just opened up, and you could give them 3 hours a week or 5 hours a month or 10 hours a month? I'm just using this as an example of one of my clients that had this exact same thing happen to them. And so again, she lives by herself. She has a monthly nut that she has to pay. She doesn't have anyone else to rely on. So when she had the clarity of knowing exactly what it was that she needed that month, then it was easier for her to put a plan in place and go after that plan. And she didn't feel desperate, because every month it would always come in. So the universe will line up. It will, but you have to take the action. The confidence is in the action. It's part of the action. You can't build the confidence in inaction. It doesn't work that way. So that's part of building the mindset, is being in action. Yeah.
Confidence is in the action. I love that. Absolutely agree with that. Yeah, that's where the confidence comes from. When you're in action, then you feel the power, you feel the momentum, you feel the energy, and that's what creates the confidence.
Ask for what you want, right? So I've worked with women where they're like, I don't know how I'm going to get another client this month, or I'm going to have, it's like, okay, well, let's create a program real quick. What do you have that we could put together and monetize off of it, that you could offer as a one-time this month? And how many seats do you have to sell to that? How many courses do you have to sell? How many whatever do you have to sell? Sometimes you have all these things already sitting out there, but you're not marketing them. So if I were to say, you know what, I'm just going to start telling everyone that I have this one course on my website that I haven't really promoted a lot. And then every single one of your campaigns, social media, emails, you're going into networking rooms and you're talking to everyone about this course, how amazing it is. That's all you're doing, is selling this one course, and you have a goal to sell 10, because that's going to get you to the number you need. I guarantee you could do that, because you have singular focus on the one thing you're driving your energy to. The problem is there's no clarity or goals set. If you have no clarity or goals set, you're literally just, I don't know, flailing in the wind of business, hoping somebody might call you. You know, I jumped on a plane last week and went to Indianapolis, Indiana, not knowing who I was going to meet. It was a faith-based conference I really wanted to go to. I applied to be a speaker. I wound up staying at their Airbnb at this center. I met the most amazing women, and I brought 10 books. 10 books was it. And those 10 books were 10 connections I wanted to make with women that were close enough that I would sign a book and give it to them. By Thursday, women were giving me gifts and books. We were going out to dinner all week. I met some of the most amazing women, and the ROI is incredible. And I did not go there to sell a thing. I went there to make connections, to get into a new circle of women that I'd never met, just to see where it would take me, because I felt led to go there.
Beautiful.
We have to trust ourselves sometimes, step out of our comfort zones, go do something that you wouldn't normally do. And most women are like, oh, I'm too busy to take a week. I'm like, you're never too busy to take a week to meet new people, ever. Because that's how our businesses evolve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fantastic. You talk about a zone of excellence and a zone of genius.
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk about this and what the difference is and where we should be?
Yeah. The Big Leap is the book. It's the most amazing thing. It's funny, when I decided to call my program Leap, when I called my community the Leap community, I had already read that book, and it didn't even dawn on me until like about a year later. I was like, oh my gosh, like that book is probably where a lot of that came from. And in this book, and why I believe reading books every morning will help your mindset considerably, right? We've got to fill our minds with the positivity for the day, the knowledge, the education, the inspiration, the motivation for the day. And when we're operating in our zone of excellence, generally that zone of excellence is something that you could do with your eyes closed. It's super easy for you, right? It is something that someone says, hey, could you do this workshop? Yeah, no problem. You already have it already written. You've already done it 1,000 times. You just show up, run through the same slides, and you're kind of in this mode of cruise control, I guess I would say. Our zone of genius is a step above that. And the zone of genius is going to be when you really tap in to the skills and the knowledge and the purpose for how you've created your life to be, and where you can make the biggest impact. So yeah, I could do these workshops right and left, and do that. But how could I take that to the next level of my zone of genius? So let's say my zone of genius is community. How can I use my zone of genius in every situation that I'm in? Last week was a great example, because that's one of my zones of genius, which is bringing groups of women together. So not only did I get to meet women in the room, the coordinator and the lady who ran this event, she had already brought all of these women together, right? She brought them all together. But while I was there, I created a whole nother community of women that didn't know each other, because we went out to dinner together. We spent more time together. We had more conversations. So when we're talking about our zone of genius, this is something that comes naturally to you, that you can create a bigger impact with, that is something that is greater than just what you can do every day. Right? If someone's like, oh, I can put together spreadsheets pretty easy, or I can coach pretty easily, great. How could you take that coaching to the next level? How can you help those individuals and empower those individuals to now make a greater impact for themselves? So that's really the difference between those two things. And once you discover that, then you will want to always play in that zone of genius area, instead of being in the zone of excellence, because the zone of excellence does get mundane and easy. I mean, you could look at any athlete, right? They can play in their zone of excellence and be okay, and, show up, but they're not going to get as many, gold medals as some of the athletes that are out there today that have gotten the gold medals, because they're just operating in their zone of excellence. It's just pushing yourself to that next level and really digging deep to kind of really what you're meant to be and do. Yeah.
Got it. So
Super
the zone
deep.
of excellence kind
Super
of
deep.
So the zone of excellence kind of comes fairly easy.
Easy.
Whereas the zone of genius, you got to dig a little bit to find that.
And it's probably going to stretch you mentally and physically as well. So, your zone of excellence is I could do workshops, I can go speak on these stages. But then if someone were to say, hey, Colleen, we have a TV producer that we think you should do your own talk show, I would be like, whoa, hey, that's going to stretch me outside of my zone of excellence, which is I could just do this every day, to my zone of genius. But now it's a much greater impact. Right. And that's really falling into the true essence of who you are and what you can do. So it's going to stretch you, and it's saying no to the things that are easy sometimes and saying yes to the things that will stretch you beyond.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that goes very similar to what you were talking about as far as the action creates confidence.
Yeah. It is. The action is the confidence. Absolutely. It is. And I love having those two words together when you think about it, because I have the same, I don't think we're all immune to self-sabotage. Never. I don't think we're ever. Anybody in the world, in any position, I don't believe is immune to self-sabotage, no matter what that looks like, right? There's some part of that in our lives, and how I believe we cope with that is by surrounding ourselves and having the right mentors and the right coaches and the right books that we're reading and the right inspiration and motivation, and surrounding ourselves with that on a regular basis is really going to help you stay in that feeling of success and confidence and feeling good about yourself. Someone said last week at the conference, Sabrina, if you're the loudest person in the room, it doesn't always mean you're the most confident person in the room. Yeah. That sometimes the humbled, quiet person could be the most confident. So don't mistake in the bold personality, or the loud personality that walks in the room that person's got it all going on. Sometimes that's just masking how they truly feel about themselves underneath. And that loudness is a diversion that they use. So something to really ponder and think about for each person watching today is, how do I walk into a room? How do I introduce myself to others? How do I show up in my relationships, in my business? How do I show up for myself every day? Am I letting myself down by saying, oh, this client needs me, so I'm not going to work out? Oh, I've got to go do this for that person, so now I'm going to put my needs aside. How much of this are we disappointing ourselves on a regular basis and putting ourselves last because we're not that important? Well, that just goes to show how you show up for yourself.
Yes.
And that's going to be in direct conflict when you're trying to be confident, if you're feeling self-sabotaged somewhere in your life because you've been sabotaging yourself and not showing up for your health or your time or the things that light you up and are important to you.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Great information. To recap, for the female entrepreneurs who are struggling with creating a consistent flow of money, what's the 1 or 2 steps? Recap.
1 or 2 steps for creating consistent flow of money. 1, create programs that offer consistency and flows of money is one. A lot of women don't even have those programs available. So it could be a membership, and you don't have to be a community leader like myself or Sabrina to have a membership, right? It could be something as simple as a web designer I work with. She created a membership for SEO reports. So you can join the membership and you get certain reports of what's happening with your SEO over a month. And then it tells you areas you need to adjust. It's a great lead gen, because that in itself is great to have every month. But now when a person keeps seeing these reports and watching their SEO tank or things on their website not look so good, now they're like, oh, how can you help me? Right? It's a great lead gen, but you're getting consistent income every month. So create something that is going to create those programs that have consistent income. I think the other thing that's that's missing from so many women is get clear on what you want. How much money do you want? Why do you want the money? What does the money do for you in your life? Does that money provide you with a vacation every year that you get to take with your family? Does that money provide you with freedom because you can now be independent on your own and you don't have to rely on someone else's income? So now you're not stuck in this horrible relationship. Get clear on how much money you want to make and why you want to make it. I'm shocked, Sabrina, when I run this quarterly program called the 12-week year. And I did not go out and create this program. I read the book, The 12-Week Year. It's phenomenal. And people all over the world will run these little 12-week groups to get people together and hold them accountable and measure the actions to your goals. You have to set a goal and then measure the actions of your lead numbers and your lag numbers. It's that simple. I can't believe how many women do not want to join that type of program because they don't want to be held accountable to a clear goal that they're setting for themselves because they don't want to fail.
Yeah.
So I always say to myself, okay, but what if you didn't hit the goal, but you missed it by a little bit? Isn't that even more than you would have gotten if you didn't set the goal in the first place?
Yeah.
Yeah. Set the goal. Get very clear on exactly how much money you want to make this year and write that out. What does that look like? How many programs do you need to sell? How many VIP days do you need to sell? How many books? How many courses? How many products or services or whatever you have? What does that look like, and outline it? I do a profit pyramid with my clients because they really need to see it on paper in clarity. I need to sell this many. And if you're talking about, I need to sell 3 VIP days this whole year, you have a whole year to sell 3 VIP days. Get working on it, if that's what you've got written down. I don't believe that a lot of women have a lot of clarity like I create in my business, that I know my numbers. I know exactly what my expenses are. I know what my revenue is. I know how much it costs to run a program and how many women I have to enroll in that to clear the costs and then create profit for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Those numbers are in my head. I know what they are. And so get clear. If you're running a business, you got to act like it. You got to know your numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100. Great advice. I love it. Absolutely. And that speaks to so many women who do have some cognitive dissonance around money. And around the stickiness of not wanting to set goals. I've seen that so many times, just not wanting to feel comfortable, not wanting to hold themselves accountable to a certain amount of money. Well, this was great. I so appreciate you. For those watching live, thank you for being here. For those watching on the replay, make sure you #replay wherever you're at so we can send you some love. But I want to ask Colleen, as we're wrapping up here, for those that are watching live, for those that are watching on the replay and who've made it this far, they're obviously resonating with what you're saying. They're obviously hanging on every word. What exactly do you do? Who should be reaching out to you? And where can people find you?
That's a really great question. Thanks for asking that, Sabrina. Anyone can find me by Googling me at Colleen Biggs on Google, but I want to connect with you. So I would prefer that you actually went to LinkedIn, that you found me at Colleen Biggs on LinkedIn, and that you sent me a DM and let me know, hey, I heard you on her talk show, and I wanted to ask you a question about X, or maybe you want to give me a compliment of something you heard. Whatever that looks like, connect with me on your favorite platform. Find me, friend me, send me a DM. I want to know that you're there and I want to connect with you directly. I work with female entrepreneurs that are either launching a brand new idea, and I've done this for 22 years, so it's not like it's brand new into my world, or are stalled out. Exactly what I just said today. They're stalled out. They've lost their confidence. They're not generating the money they want to generate. Most of the time, there's just a gap somewhere in the knowledge of clarity of what it is that they want. We just dive in and just break everything down and build all the services and products back up. And I really am more of a business strategist. I strategize on all the areas of where your opportunity is sitting there and you're not generating money in an area area you could be, or your prices aren't right. Maybe they're too high, maybe they're too low for the market. Whatever that looks like, I love being the strategist for any female entrepreneur to assist them in reaching their goals. And if that's a financial goal, why haven't you reached it yet? Most of the time, there's just somewhere of a lack of knowledge or clarity of something you're not seeing or knowing what to do. And so I help fill that gap for women.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Why do you do what you do?
Oh, because ever since I was a little girl, I thought I was going to grow up and get married and have babies and all of that. And then I watched my family crumble when I was 12. And from that moment on, I didn't have the parental support at all in my life at all to provide me with the stability I needed as a child. And I was tasked at that point to grow up at 12 and figure out how to create financial independence for myself so that I could always have choices, no matter what marriage I was in, no matter what relationship I was in. I knew I could always stand on my own financially, and that is empowerment at its finest. I was proud to make money. I was proud to be able to have a career. I was proud of my accomplishments. And I do this because I want other women to be proud of what they're building, to be proud of themselves, and to be able to have choices in their lives and always be able to stand on their own independently.
Absolutely beautiful. I love that. Well, I so appreciate you being here and hanging out with us and
This
sharing.
was fun.
Yes. Are you predominantly on LinkedIn? Where should people be following you on social media? Is LinkedIn the best place?
Yeah, LinkedIn's one of the best places. I'm also all over social media. If you want to see everything about my social life, meaning my grandkids, my business is my life. So you will see all my travels, all my family, all my grandkids. Follow me at Instagram at Colleen Biggs. You can't miss me. The same photos everywhere. I'm like karate chopping and kicking in my photo because I'm a first-degree black belt. So I'm kind of showing like my bad attitude in that photo.
Yes, girl. Oh, I love that. Well, I so appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to share all of the goodness with us. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up?
Yeah, I want you, Sabrina, because I know you run an amazing, community, and I want every woman out there to know that it is possible for you to be very successful as an entrepreneur. You don't have to barely scrape by at 5 figures or 6 figures. You deserve to have a profit. You work really hard in your business, and stop drowning people in content and really start giving people connection. It's what they're starving for, and let's give people what they're looking for. Play the connection. People actually get to know them because you care, right? That's the goal in this. So if I can leave everyone with that, I know just creating those connections will change their life in so many ways. Become valuable. Become valuable.
Beautiful. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Colleen. I appreciate you being here. For those of you that are here listening live or on the replay, if you resonate with Colleen and all of the goodness that she shared today, make sure you check out her website at colleenbiggs.net. It should be in a clickable link in the description below. Also, her LinkedIn, Facebook, Insta, she said she's all over the place. So make sure you connect, jump into her DMs. We love to connect people here on this platform to make sure we all continue to rise. Thank you so much for joining us here on Her Talk Show. This community is expanding every single day and is filled with females who are striving to do better than they did yesterday. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. If you have an amazing story to share, check us out at hernation.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I'm so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth